The original Panther Solo, the Solo 1, was designed again by Ken Greenley, and the chassis was done by none other than Len Bailey. Now, Len Bailey designed the chassis for the Ford GT40 and the Lola that preceded it. So you could say it had some pedigree. The engine was the Ford CVH 1.6 from the Ford Escort, mounted transversely using the Ford Escort gearbox. But as you can see, being a specialist manufacturer's car, it was quite space-aged. Definitely visually a challenge for the MR2 that scared young C. Kim so much that he cancelled this car. But many people within Panther, and many people I've spoken to since, think that the Panther Solo 1, could and should have gone into production and would have come in at a lower price point than the Panther Solo 2, and the two of them could possibly have sat side by side as a range. But it was a missed opportunity and a car that never was. And I suppose we can all look back and wonder, what if? So what of the Solo that did go into production, the Panther Solo 2? Well, to be perfectly honest, we've covered this in a programme on the Solo where I explain the story. But at the end of the day, only 12 reached customers. It is a great pity for what could have been a really great car. That isn't the end of the story with the Panther Solo, because the SsangYong Solo 3 made a sudden show appearance several years later. Now, the styling was again credited to Ken Greenley. It's lost the swivel headlamps. They are now fixed. They look like projector lamps to me. It has gained a chin spoiler, which I'm not entirely sure works. But it does show how futuristic the original shape was, that it's morphed quite well into the front end. Side on, you can see where things start to go wrong with that extended rear end. I'm not quite sure what the mechanical plan was for underneath. I very much doubt it would have been the Ford Sierra running gear that was used before. And that overhang at the back really doesn't work, and the rear lights, well, yeah, that just doesn't work at all for me. So it never made it beyond being another show car. I think they discovered quite early on, once they took the Solo parts over to Korea, what we had been telling them all along. At least the engineers and the people working on the cars would have told them, that the car wasn't ready for production. They thought they were getting something that any old production line worker could bolt together, and it wasn't ready. They pulled the plug too soon. If you're enjoying this, please hit the like and subscribe. Now here's another fantastic supercar that never made it into production. More's the pity. The famed Aston Martin Bulldog by the great designer William Townes, who also designed the Lagonda for Aston Martin. Now this shared the electronic dashboard with the Lagonda, and the headlamp arrangement was a flap in the front of the car that dropped down to release a bank of headlamps. It was quite an amazing, startling thing. And I think you could call this the ultimate wedge, although William Townes preferred to call it a folded design. But yeah, it was a stunning machine, claimed to be capable of 200 miles an hour. Now, the current very lucky owner of the car has recently had it sympathetically restored, the engine put into fine fettle, the 5.3 litre Merrick designed Aston Martin V8, and some runs were done when the car has actually achieved its target 200 mile an hour. And I know from having met William Towns a couple of times, he would have been extremely pleased. But look at it, it's a luxury supercar. Imagine if Aston Martin had put this into production, how we'd have viewed the company throughout the 80s. When, I mean, this was shown in 1980, I think it was, 79, 1980, something around then. Imagine if this had managed to go into production. What a fantastic machine. But once again, it wasn't to be. And I guess we'll always wonder what if. But, you know, McLaren came up with the 200-mile-an-hour car. This would have done it a decade, 2 decades earlier. Now, another way you can support the channel is through Patreon or buy me a coffee. That would really help us to make this content. Another car by William Towns, the TXC Tracer. Now, this is another mid-engine car, and you can see the styling cues from the Bulldog carried over to a certain extent. And you see that big flap on the front where the bonnet would be? Well, that again dropped down to release a bank of headlamps. It was a styling feature that William Towns rather favoured, and it's a rather neat idea to have a bank of headlamps behind a flap. This car was Metro based, so this one had the 1.3 A series engine, and it was touted to Rover, MG Rover, but sadly it was never taken up. It's a great pity because from the concept it was, you know, would have been a great MG midget or British sports car that would have, certainly been modern, fresh. It's a very attractive design from a man who certainly had a good track record. Now, he decided in the end to put the car into production himself, and I'm not sure if it was fully built or as a kit. I think it was a kit, but I don't know how many were sold, if any, and I know he really, really liked this design and hoped that something would happen with it. So it is a great pity. And yeah, another one that got away. I think you'll agree. I mean, this would have been a great car to drive around. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.